Kevin, you're on mute, I think. Sorry.
Colleagues, welcome to this event. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, where we just spend 45 minutes just remembering the last 12 months and the issues that we faced together. For this moment, I'm just going to hand over to Shelley Wright, who's just going to take us through some housekeeping events.
Thanks, Kevin. Just to say, for those who have not met, my name's Shelley Wright. I'm the Director of Communications here, and I just wanted to just do a little bit of housekeeping. So we're using Teams Live this afternoon, which means that there's no upper limit on the number of people that can join. So actually, as many people in the Trust who've got time to link in can do that. What it does mean is that we can't see you in the same way a Teams meeting would work, and you can't unmute, unfortunately, and talk to us. So if you do want to say anything, you've got any thanks that you want to give to other teams, you want to recognise or just make any kind of comment, you can do that in the chat, and we'll keep our eye on that throughout the meeting. And it'd be really nice if you do want to recognise colleagues. It's clear that we're not going to be able to recognise absolutely every single person in the Trust. So if you feel strongly about, you know, some people that have helped you, people that want that recognition, please do put that in the chat. And with that, I'll just hand over back to Kevin.
Thanks, Shelley. So for those colleagues I've not met, my name's Kevin McGee, Chief Executive, and I would just like to recognise these last 12 months, which a word I've used on many occasions is it's been brutal. It's been brutal on individual staff, it's been brutal on departments, and it's been brutal on our families and our communities. But what we can say without exception is that colleagues in our organisation, in ELHT, have been magnificent. You've supported our communities, you've supported individual patients in the most brutal and difficult circumstances. And for that, we acknowledge everything that you've done, and we thank each and every one of you for the work that you've done. This event this afternoon and the visits that we've had and got lined up and the wellness events that we've got are just a small way of saying thank you. So this is a time this afternoon to reflect. This is a time to acknowledge that it's been difficult. And this is a time for us to come together in collective support. So thank each and every one of you. So at this moment, I'm just going to hand over to Martin Hodgson, and a few of our executive colleagues are just going to say a few words. Martin.
Thank you, Kevin. So my name's Martin Hodgson. I'm Deputy Chief Executive. What I would say is it hasn't really mattered what people's job roles are or what they've been experienced in personally throughout this period. I think there's been an overwhelming sense of being in it together, a common sense of purpose, unity. And that's really come out loud and clear in the visits that exec directors have done to date, and I'm sure for the rest of the week. So really, again, just sort of echo Kevin's comments to thank you very much for all that you've done and you continue to do to give that high quality patient care. So I'll now hand over to Jawad Hussain.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jawad Hussain. I'm the Exec Medical Director. Don't go by my appearance. I am the baby of the group. I joined just at the start of pandemic. And my God, what an experience, personal experience I had. But one thing stood out up there, that ELHT family and what it meant as a family, of how we delivered the high quality care, the exceptional values that we portrayed, and how people gelled in. Most of us worked outside our comfort zone because thankfully nobody has seen this sort of a pandemic before, but it was really, and I use the word feast because it was a feast to see how people really came together, and there was no job was too small or too big or too much of a trouble. People stayed behind long, more than what the working hours were. And I was so glad and proud that I came to this organization, because the sense of community, the sense of partnership, and the very fundamental of all why we come to work here was displayed, that we care for our patients, and not only patients, we care for each other. So a big thank you to all of you. I have learned a lot. whilst in these 12 months, and very much looking forward to how we continue this ethos. So thank you, and I'll hand over to Sharon now.
Hi, thanks, Joe. I'm Sharon Gilligan, Chief Operating Officer. So I was asked to think about what the last year had meant to me, and I think it's fair to say that both personally and professionally, it has been the most challenging year of my life, really. I think we went into lockdown on my 48th birthday last year, and I didn't think I'd be celebrating my 49th still in lockdown. But I think the hardest thing was the unknown for all of us in the very beginning. All we really had as a point of reference was pictures from Italy of patients lying on the floor, and everybody was really scared. And we were all scared too. And I think, you know, involved in kind of commanding the incident with exec colleagues, you know, people looked to us for answers, and we didn't have them all. But we worked together. We dealt with it in the early days when PPE, you know, was short and we're moving things around. And, you know, we continue to work together. And as the rules changed, I remember asking somebody not to wear a mask in the corridor when the rules were you don't wear masks. And then 2 weeks later, I'm saying to people, could you wear a mask in the corridor, please? And it was just constantly changing. And then it was really difficult deciding when we should cancel patients, because I knew there would be an effect of cancelling patients, and, you know, particularly cancelling patients for surgery. And none of us want to do that, but we didn't want to wait too long. We didn't want to go too early. And we continue to struggle with that in restoration. And I think there isn't anybody who hasn't been affected personally by COVID. My mother died of COVID. I ended up with COVID, and I was, you know, the illest I've ever been. And I completely get that when you're grieving, you know, a virtual hug from your friend's not quite the same as actual hugs, because you've got the whole isolation. But, you know, my ELHT family helped me through that, and I know it's helped many of you, talking to lots of you who've experienced similar things. But I think the overwhelming emotion I have had throughout this is pride. I'm so proud to be the Chief Operating Officer of this organisation, but also immensely humbled, because no matter what this evil pandemic threw at us, we got back up, we came back as Team ELHT, you know, and did the best for our patients and our staff and lived our values. And, you know, I am so proud to continue to work here. And on that note, I'll hand you over to Chris Pearson, our Chief Nurse.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm Chris Pearson. I'm the Chief Nurse here at East Lancs. And so this is our opportunity to reflect and recognise the happenings of the last year, and it's been extremely difficult and challenging for each and every one of us, and each of us will have had a different experience, and one that we need to all reflect on and think about. I've tried to think about how we've provided safe, personal and effective care over the last year. And if I was to pick one of the values there, and one that would stand out for me, it's about the personal aspect of how challenging that's been. I think for many of us, to not be able to visit our loved ones when they're in hospital is really, really difficult. And we've had to restrict visiting for all but an exceptional number of groups of patients, which has been really, really upsetting for each of us who value families to come in and see our loved ones when they're not well. And I've had personal experience of that, where somebody from my family, my mum, I wasn't able to visit, and it is really, really difficult. So, you know, I do empathise with people out there who've not had that ability to be able to come in, and hopefully soon we'll be able to allow some visiting back into the organisation and to begin to build that bond with them. So I just want to take this time to say thank you to each and every one of you for all the support that you've given, whatever role you've played through the most difficult time. And this is my 41st year in the NHS, and it has to be my most difficult year too. It really is, as other directors have said, and Kevin, that it really has been a team approach, and you know, we've really come out strong as Team ELHT. So thank you, and I'm going to pass you back over to Shelley now.
Thanks, Chris. We've not got anything in the chat at the moment, and I think that's probably just testimony to people just having a moment to reflect and remember, and I think that's perfectly appropriate and to be expected. I'm going to hand you over to Andrew, who I think is just going to take us through a moment that includes a minute's silence, and we're going to put a slide up with our colleagues' names on there that we've sadly lost, and we'll be able to have that moment together. Over to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Shelley. A year or so ago, coronavirus came and quickly grew into something that we could hardly have grasped at the time, how it would affect us all and change our lives. At ELHT, we received our first patient about a year ago, and a few days later, our first death. And when I say we, I mean we. Every person who works in the ELHT family received those patients, cared for them, put things in place that helped those patients to be cared for, loved and shown concern in the very best ways that we possibly could. For the frightened patients that came to us, we used medical and nursing and holistic skills, everything that we could muster, everything that makes us human. And with our courage and fear, we cared and served and gave our all. We began to realize that things weren't going to go back to normal anytime soon. What was the normal, the mundane, the everyday became abnormal and unreal and unwanted. We saw the numbers growing on our wards. How many would there be? What would become of them? What would become of us? Around us and within us, life was changing, perhaps forever. It wasn't just at work, it encompassed every aspect of our lives. It disturbed our sleep, our families, people who we couldn't share the reality of work with anymore because we wanted to shield them from the truth. It meant caring for patients who were extremely poorly, whilst hiding the fear, the anxiety, the exhaustion, the guilt, the anger, and the loss that we felt. Grief and loss is tangible and it's real. It was for those that we had cared for who had died, many, many deaths. And for others, it was for the relatives, friends, colleagues who had died. Died in a time when visiting was restricted or stopped. We broke hearts by having to stop visiting. We broke bad news over the phone. It made our hearts ache and sometimes break. We held our iPads and Zoomed with families who gathered to say their goodbyes at a distance. Shockingly sad, but also an enormous privilege to share intimate, raw, last moments. Knitted hearts from numerous folk locked down at home poured in so that we could comfort worried and grieving relatives who couldn't be there. A heart for them, a heart for their loved one. And somehow, a year on, we are all still here. Somehow we've reached this milestone on a path we would rather not have trod. For many of us, it will take a long time to heal. Our heads and our hearts are not yet there. We wonder what the autumn and the winter will bring again. For me, it's been humbling to witness so much of your love and humanity poured out as healthcare professionals, all of you giving your all and more, sometimes while running not just on empty, but on the fumes of empty. So let's take a moment now to pause, reflect, and hold in our hearts all those we love and have loved, patients, colleagues, friends, and family, all those we've treated, cared for, and sent home to recover, and all those that we've lost. We give thanks for the love, kindness, and concern that's been shared with us, and for us, and by us. For colleagues who have carried us through dark times when we just haven't been able to put one foot in front of the other, too tired to think, too scared to come to work, too broken to even begin to think about recovery and resilience just yet. A moment of stillness, a time in which the goodness in each of us is joined together across our hospital family, held together when it matters most. And then, maybe then, we can begin to hope. So a minute's silence for those that we remember, and then I'll finish with a poem which was shared with our colleagues at Blackpool too. If you can look at the sunset and smile, then you still have hope. If you can find beauty in the colours of a small flower, then you still have hope. If you can find pleasure in the moment of a butterfly, then you still have hope. If the sight of a rainbow still makes you stop and stare in wonder, then you still have hope. If receiving an unexpected card or letter still brings a pleasant surprise, then you still have hope. If you can look to the past and smile, then you still have hope. Hope is such a marvelous thing. It bends, it twists, it sometimes hides and seems lost. It sustains us when nothing else can. It gives us reason to continue and courage to move ahead when we tell ourselves we'd rather give in. Hope puts a smile on our face when the heart cannot manage. Hope puts our feet on the path when our eyes cannot see it. Hope moves to act when our souls are confused of the direction. Hope is a wonderful thing, something to be cherished and nurtured, and something that will refresh us in return. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for everything that you've done also over the past 12 months. I think we're going to hand over now to Kate, who's going to talk to us about the health and wellbeing support that's available.
Thank you, Shelley. Hello, everybody. I'm Kate Quinn. I'm the Operational Director of HR and OD. And I just want to talk to you about some of the wellbeing things that we're doing across the Trust this week to help you take a moment for your own health and wellbeing. We've a range of things that the Well team will be working with you on out and about, drop-in sessions, mindfulness sessions. I believe we've had laughter yoga, wellbeing toolkit work with you to start to get you to think about your own health and well-being, and our ever popular frazzle cafes if you're just feeling a little bit frazzled and you want to pop along and share that with colleagues. We really want to promote self-care this week, and would encourage you, if you can, to take some time out and take that moment for yourself. In addition to what we've got to support you this week, we have a range of wellbeing support across the Trust, and hopefully you've all had access to the Wellbeing Directory, which kind of explains what's on offer. I think everybody, as Chris says, has had a very different experience this year, and so everybody's needs in terms of their own health and well-being and their experience will be very different. So we really aim to provide a range of different support for each and every one of you. And if you're not sure what support you need, but you know you need some help, the Well team would be more than happy to come along and speak to either yourself or your team and tailor some support for you. We're also looking at how we support you to recover and have that time to recover, because I think it's clear, you know, people haven't been able to take the annual leave that they normally would and get that proper rest and switch off. We've all been working, you know, a lot longer hours than we would normally. So we want to encourage you to get some time off and recover. You know, recognising the impact that you've had both in the workplace and outside of work. I think, you know, we've not been able to see our friends and family, and you've had COVID in work, and you've probably not been able to escape it when you've turned the television on when you get home. So we really do want to support you with that recovery as we come out of this wave of the pandemic. We will be working with colleagues across Cumbria and Lancashire to make sure that we're really building in our health and wellbeing offer to increase the support that we give to staff. Just as an aside, we have put a bid in for some additional funding from the NHS Charities Together for a wellbeing pod, which we hope will again support the offer that we can have for staff going forward. And within that, we're also hoping to get an apprentice for Jasper, who I know has been much loved and much appreciated by staff across the organisation. So all I would say is, if you're keen to get some support and you're not quite sure where to go, start with the Wellbeing Directory, and if in doubt, the Well team are more than happy to come and support you individually.
Michelle, I think you were going to come in and just talk about how people can access funds if they feel like they needed something within their own working environment.
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you, Shelley. So my name is Michelle Brown. I'm the Director of Finance here at the Trust. So we've heard this afternoon about how our staff have done an outstanding job of caring for our patients, their families and each other over this last very difficult year. So to continue on the wellbeing theme, I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind staff that there are options for funding for your individual areas of work through the Staff Lottery Fund, and areas can access that through the Staff Zone on the intranet. So if there are items that you think would help to make your areas of work more comfortable or pleasant, please consider putting bids together to access this. It is a fund that is there specifically for staff, and we would very much encourage you as an executive team to do that. Thank you very much, and I'll just hand you back to Shelley now.
Thanks, Michelle. I think we're going over to Kevin, actually, so I'll just hand you over there.
Okay, thanks, colleagues. So people will be aware we have a number of welfare offerings which I really would like and encourage all staff and staff groups to take advantage of. There's lots of good stuff that we can provide and should provide to support you with. We've also undertaken already a number of visits, and we're going to continue with those visits during the next few days. So if you see exec colleagues wandering around lost, please say hello to us, please invite us into your departments, and it's really just to say thank you to each and every one of you. So we're almost at the end of our moment of reflection this afternoon. We do have a video that we want to share, and I would encourage you to stay on and listen to that video. It is very, very powerful and quite poignant. But I would like to thank all executive colleagues, Andrew and other colleagues who have contributed to this afternoon's events. I don't know about you, I found it very poignant and very moving. And after a year of such momentous events, it's really difficult to encapsulate in half an hour, 3/4 of an hour what's happened over the previous 12 months. But it's fair to say that each and every one of us has been personally affected very deeply by what's gone on. But we've come through it, and we've come through it because as an organisation, as clinical teams, as departments, we support one another. That's the centre of the ethos of ELHT. I'm very proud of each and every one of you, and I hope that you are proud of yourself and all the work that you've done. So a heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you. So if the technology works, and hopefully it will work, we now have a short video to finish the proceedings this afternoon. That concludes our event for this afternoon. Thank you all.